And yes, I know the sisters will be excited for me to be in Florida. So just saying. Anyway, I haven't been to Florida since I've done Orlando. That was quite a few years ago, but we're going to try Jacksonville. Anyway, all right, guys, welcome to After Hours. Today we are going to be talking about this type of digitizing. This was something that was brought up in one of the hands-on classes I was recently teaching at, and it came from the Brilliant Embrilliance group on Facebook. Someone posted a picture of a word that said spooky in this farmhouse style big text, and then seasons underneath it. And we had this great discussion about remove hidden stitches and using enthusiast, and how those were not good options to get this knockout look. So I thought I would do an after hours with thanks and blessings and going from there. Oh, excuse me. Got the hiccups. All right, so let's pop on into the software and see where we're going from here. Ooh, that's a small screen. So let me see if I can make this just a bit bigger. There we go. And I won't be in the way, but okay. So here we are in the software. And this is the sample that I showed as a picture. And let's just talk it through. What the project is the blessings or season or whatever word you want to put on it. I mean, just imagine this can be done in, I'm thinking my high school, St. Paul Falcons. Anything that you want, Air Force, Falcons. Falcons is on my mind for whatever. It doesn't just have to be a holiday thing. This is done with all sorts of fun things. I'm doing mine in a 5x7, but it could be done larger for a sweatshirt. 10 inches is a nice sweatshirt size. And what's nice is that this is actually relatively easy digitizing. So because the blessings right here is done in a BX font. So this, which is the scripty thing, which could say season or falcons or, tigers or whatever this word is that you're going to put on top of it, can be done with the lettering tool, and all we have to digitize are the letters on the back side. So, I'm going to be using StitchArtist Level 3. We'll walk through the process on how I'm doing this so that you understand how my thought process is in case you want to do something differently than what I did. So the first thing I did, oopsie daisy, that's my my sample of how I chose my fonts. But let's open a brand new design page. I'm going to rotate my hoop by double clicking on the word hoop, making this just a bit bigger, going into StitchArtist and clicking on the True Type Font button. The font I'm using, this one's called Father Farmhouse Sans. I was just looking for a tall, skinny, simple font. Nothing that was going to be too difficult because I was going to chop it up. And so this one happened to work. Okay, so I'm going to type in the word thankful. And the reason I'm putting in thankful is because after I did thanks, I'm like, well, at the thanks and blessings, I liked thankful better. So typed in my word and it brings it in, and you can see that the letters are already as objects. So that's my starting point. So I'm going to manipulate this so that it fits my hoop and gives the look that I'm going for. So if you notice, I stretched it taller because I'm manipulating this. I'm making it a little bit wider because I want to kind of fill my hoop that I'm working in, and that's where I'm going for. I mean, I'm working step by step. So the first thing I do is bring in this into the background so that I have it on my screen. Now, 2020 hindsight. I know I'm going to have to manipulate these letters individually because if you think about it, and that's what this one letter was, actually, we'll look at this one because this is the one I chose. When you put your font on top of it, if you notice, I'm going to be, and let's go back to the original one, you're chopping out part of the letters. So you can't really take out the bar of the H. And that's what, if you look at this original one that we have here, see how the H and the A and the N and the K, if you put something right smack dab in the middle and you cut that out, you're going to have a hard time guessing what that word says. So that's just to let you know, we are going, that is where we're going from. So I made it wider, made it taller, and I'm going to be doing further manipulation on this before I get there. One of the things I did, as you see, I have blessings done in multiple scripts because I was trying to find the one that looked the best out of the fonts that I have on my computer. BX fonts. So these are just in the lettering object. If you look here, these are itch to stitch fonts because I have the most variety of those. They're available from the Designs by Juju website. This is the Autumn font, and that's the original one that I did with the thanks. And this one happens to be the 2-inch. Even though I have manipulated it to be smaller to fit, because as you place this on top of the word, as you're looking for, I'm trying to see, okay, what am I going to have to do to manipulate it? What looks good? How is it going to adjust? So I make multiple copies, choose different fonts, and play with them. See which one actually looks the best for the project that I'm working on. This is probably the hardest part is choosing, because you have, I'm sure if you're like me, you have a few fonts on your computer. So these are the 3 that I decided to play with, and the one that I actually ended up working with, this one is, let's see, let's click on this. Oh, it's called Starstruck. It's from the Itch to Stitch. Ooh, crap, undo, Command Z, because I have it all spaced out, so I don't want to muck around with it anymore. I have it all connected and it's all sized, so I don't want to change it. Once I have it kind of where I want it on the word, I have it selected and I click on my lock button. That means I can no longer accidentally click on it in my hoop. Whenever I click on something, I'm getting what's behind it. So this locks it in place so that now I'm going to be doing extra manipulation. So let me go and I'm going to select this. Well, let's select it over here because I can't select it by clicking in the display pane. I have to click on it over here. And I'm going to go to copy and I'm going to go to ours and I'm going to hit paste just so that I don't have to move those letters around again. Now I am adjusting this just a little bit because I want to center it, because I don't want anything taken out of the T and I don't want anything taken out of the L. I'm kind of creating, thankful is my frame. So everything is going to fit in here. Everything else is going to be chopped out. But as you see, that H, that bar of the H, the A, and the K, it's all kind of, and even the F, if I break it like that knockout design was, you can't tell that's an H. So I need to adjust each individual letter. Need to be in create mode to do that. And so I select the first letter, hit the S key on my keyboard to zoom into the selection, and I want to move that bar up in the air. So to do that, there's not too many nodes in here. Well, I know the question is going to be, should I get rid of some of them? Well, sure, that would probably be a good idea. However, before I do that, I also am thinking about this particular font. Do you see how fat that bar is and how fat that top is? I probably want these guys to be a little skinnier at the top. I don't want them to be so fat, so I'm going to make some adjustments and reshape, and I can get rid of some nodes in the process so that I don't end up with any gobbledygooks. But reshaping the font in the first place to get it to where I want. See all those extra nodes it puts in there? Yeah. I do want to reshape it. So this gives me a good starting point, but I do want to, there are things I need to pay attention. So I noticed I over-clicked, or when I moved this, I created extra nodes in here. I like the bar up at the top, so I'm going to only grab nodes, and I'm just lassoing them. So one thing to know, when you're in any level of create mode and you click on an object that has nodes, first of all, zoom in close so you can see what you're working on. That's always a plus. I'm going to delete extra nodes by selecting it and either hitting the delete key on my keyboard or selecting it and double clicking on it. So that's the easiest way of doing that. So I shouldn't say so much. I know I do. If I want to grab multiple nodes at a time while I can see them, use your lasso. And your lasso is just your mouse. Left click, hold, and drag a lasso around it. And now you can move that up. So I grab a whole bunch of them at the same time. Do I have to get rid of these extra nodes here? Not really. I mean, don't pick your battles, fellas, or everyone that's paying attention to me. If you're doing this to be click, poof, done, and just to get it over with, don't spend your time. Wait until you have to. Because the other thing is we're going to be digitizing this. So, and we haven't applied any stitches. So maybe not spend so much time playing around with the objects so that you get the nodes, because you're going to have to do it again anyway. But that's what I'm going to do with each one of those letters so that I can bring those bars or the important stuff up. The other thing I'm going to pay attention to are, I know I'm going to do satin columns going around this. I'm thinking back and forth, back and forth. And when it gets to this part here, that's going to be a wicked long satin column. So why don't I bring it up to the top so it's a little narrower? Yes, it changes the look, but it's going to stitch a whole lot better. And especially if you kind of make this a little rounded so that the stitches can shorten in that area, it's fine. Don't sweat the small stuff. And I'm going to move this part up so that it is more in line. I'm going to definitely get rid of square nodes because this is all curvy shaped. But look at that big wonkin' thing there. Let's go and grab some nodes here and just move them up until they're here, up in the top. And I would go through and do this for each individual letter. Okay? So, hopefully that makes sense. I'm seeing some hearts and some things going through. People are checking in late. And you're never late because you can always watch the replay. Yes, I'm getting hearts, so yes, you're understanding this. Okay, so now let's digitize this and think about it. Now, sometimes what can help with thinking about how this can look is if you select this entire letter or word and simply click on the fill stitch. You're not going to leave it that way, but now let's change it to a different color because that's too dark for us. How about if we change it to a nice goldy color? There we go, new gold. Now, even though I don't care what the stitches look like, but now you have a better idea of how you're going to chop this into various pieces, because you're going to have to think about how this is going to stitch. My T is going to have satins going across the top and satins going down this way. My H is going to have satins coming down this leg. We're going to have a bar in the center that's going to be going up and down in this bar here. And of course, the stuff on the bottom, A, N. Now, when you have stitches in there, at least you can see how to adjust your stuff. So to save time, this one is already done. So as you can see, I moved my H, my A, the N, the K, the F. And the other thing that I did was, as I'm working with this, do you see there's extra white space in between here? I actually adjusted. There we go. Let me close this one. We don't need to look at this anymore. I'll just keep clicking on it. So that's my original. That was the original that we were working on. And this is the step that we would get to. Notice that my letters are now even wider. And that's because I didn't want so much white space. These are going to be pretty skinny letters once we get through with them all. And I want to make sure that when I do break things, that it's going to make sense. That you're still going to be able to recognize that this says thankful. My concern was really the K as I'm working with, because that in my sample here where it says thanks, Do you see how the I was on the N and I was able to chop it here? Well, with Thankful, the I is on the K. So, and on this one, it's still on the K. So I may have to do some finagling further with this just to get to be truly cut out, because I don't want to chop it right here at the top. Or I may just say, suck it up, Buttercup. Or what I may do is move the dot using Enthusiast and lasso it, move it down. I don't know. We have so many options. But I want to show how I break this across. So we're going to look at the T first. Well, first of all, the L. Let's click on the L first. And I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go into Create Mode. And I'm going to click on the satin column. Let me change this back to my yellow color so that we can actually see it. Goldy color. That works. Okay, so I'm going to click on my L, and the only reason I'm clicking on the L first is because I don't have to break this. So I'm going to click on my satin column, and if I only have level 1, this is what we have. So I'm going to hit the S key to zoom in, and you can see it does a pretty decent job of filling this with satin, because there's not much information there that is easy to get mucked up or confused. I would want to remove some of these extra nodes in the corners here and reshape so that they are smoother looking, and just to get the look that I'm going for. This is how you get your satin column in level 1. Now, let's do the T. A. We can try this and hit the S key so that we are zoomed in on it. We can try this with our satin column and see what it does. And it actually doesn't do too badly here at the top without doing anything, but it gets a little wonky here at the top, if you notice. So I would, no matter what level I'm working on, normally I break these all up into separate objects. So let me get rid of some of these extra nodes so that I don't have to worry about them. Put one in this corner here. I'm going to make this a little bit skinnier up here at the top because I'm not sure I did that. Oh, square nodes have no place in this design. Make sure you ask any questions if you have them. I will be checking. As soon as you remove nodes, do you see how the stitches kind of get? They do get. Oh, get rid of that. That's if you have a node and you want to change it, select it, right click on it, and change it to the type of nodes that you want. So I want it to be a curve, so that's not stopping there, and fixing this. Do you notice when you give it less information, i.e., that is, less nodes, you get smoother shapes. So even if you wanted to just leave this as a level 1, you're good. However, normally this is just what I do because I like to have control over things. I'm going to break across. Nancy says, what do I mean by a squared node? Okay, so I'm in StitchArtist and you can see my nodes. There's 3 types of nodes in StitchArtist. One is a curve node, which is this node that's a circle that is just open. That is what we call a balanced node. It's a curve. So I'm zoomed in real close. When you have a curve node, it's a pass-through, so there's no decisions being made. You move one angle on one side and it moves the other one like a teeter-totter. So what goes up, the other side goes down. That's a curve node. And when you have curved nodes, you don't get extra needle points. And it's not that important with this particular design, but all these other nodes are what we call cusps that are here. So you see that it has a circle with a line through it. These are actually, and that allows you to change the angle of only one side. And for this design, it really doesn't make sense to have a cusp there because that would be kind of dumb looking. So what normally, if I were drawing this by hand, I would have all of these be curves. So I'm selecting all of these nodes here at the top, and I'm going to right click on them and change them all to curve nodes so they're all pass-through nodes, all balanced, no gobbledygooks. Cusps would make sense in these corners because you have an angle going in one direction and an angle going in another direction. A straight node, let's see if we have any left here. I think I might have removed them all. Nope, there's one here at the bottom. See, there's a straight node, and it's on top of another node, and it causes a problem. Straight nodes are when you want to, I'm going to just draw with points, when you want to create completely geometric shapes. Right-click to end. Each node, it's a straight line in between each one of them. So you see how that can cause a problem when you're working with a true type font that has curves areas. You probably don't need any straight nodes unless it's completely block font. Straight nodes, okay? There should be no straight nodes in here because it causes problems. And if you also noticed, it was stacked on top of another node. So I usually just move it off to the side, double click on it, and then I can just reshape that cuspy guy, which actually should be a curvy guy because it would just make more sense and have less problems. So select all these, right click, change it to a curve, put another node down here to reshape this, and go from there. Hopefully, Nancy, they answered the question, and anybody else that was thinking about it. But when you're working, especially in level 1, you do need to zoom in and check through everything because you don't want gobbledygooks. And gobbledygook is what we saw at the bottom. That was going on. Not good. So even if I have level 1, what I normally do, unless this is click poof done, and that's where we're headed here, I break this into 2 objects. And the reason is because if I do a test sew and there happens to be a gap in the center here, and that could happen, it's just the way I digitize letters and satin columns. I always have multiple objects. So to break this across and to create an object for the bottom and an object for the top, I select both nodes by lassoing on them, right click on it, and choose break across. One of the other reasons I do this is because T is very simple. It's 2. It's 2 objects right on top. But think of other things that you're going to be working on. Swirls that have multiple things. The letter Y, R, P, B. Things that have lots of objects. And things just get very confused. So you're going to be breaking stuff a lot. To break across in level 1 or level 2, or actually any of the levels, you select 2 nodes, right click, and if you noticed, my object became, this is the bar on top, and I'm actually going to select those 2 nodes and delete them because we don't need them. And we have our bar here at the bottom. And that I make it stitch a little bit underneath because when I set these 2 guys back to my satin column, this one has to stitch second. Right click, move later. This guy here. Whoops. Command Z. What did I do? Oh, he's got a twisted node in there. And see, a twisted node. See that handle? When you have wonky handles, things get twisted and bad things happen. So we just want to straighten everything out so everything's going nice and straight across. And do you see that you have enough overlap and underlap of this? Which means when I have this stitching, it's going to start and stop here at the top. And this column stitch, I'm going to move my little start guy over to here. And it's going to stitch this guy. Okay? Lots of videos on breaking across and digitizing true type fonts on the Embrilliance YouTube channel StitchArtist playlist. This is with a satin column. This is something that you just have to practice. So that's how you would do it in level 1. Okay? You have no angles of inclination. In level 2, you have the same, you break across the same way, but as opposed to having to reshape everything, if you have level 2, you have this button here that says Add Inclinations. And this lets you click up here at the top and draw your angles of inclination so that there is absolutely no confusion in this. The software knows exactly how you want these stitches to be. You don't have to guess. You put them in there. It doesn't have to guess. It puts the stitches in exactly how you want them to be. So that makes things a whole lot easier as far as that goes. So we would do that for all these letters if you had StitchArtist Level 1 or Level 2. Okay? What is really kind of cool with StitchArtist Level 3 is that we have this graphical operator here at the top. Okay, it says add a break line to the shape. And what I mean by break line is where do we want to chop this? Because if I want to chop this H in level 1 or 2, I have to select 2 nodes. And if I want to chop it across here, I'm going to move this node up a little bit so that it's about where I want. I have to add another node over to this side by double clicking. See, I put a square node in there. Don't want that. Select it, right click on it, change it to a cusp because I don't want square nodes. Select those 2, right click on it, and say break across. I would have to do that over and over and over again for every single one. If I've already added one there, so I don't have to do that one again. But for this object that we're looking at here, if I want to break it here and break it here, I can click on add a break line, draw my break line, add another break line, draw my break line exactly where I want it, right click, and once I have my 2 break lines in, and actually if I hadn't added this one, I would actually have 4 break lines, I would choose process, and it automatically breaks it up so that I can select this part right here and hit the delete key. And there's that hunky. This one I would go up here, add break line, left click, right click to end, process it. Now I can select this guy and hit this. And add my things this way. So just to skip ahead to show this, why this is wicked cool, add break line. So this is my letter A. I just kind of follow what I have here. There's the first one. Another one to add break line is going to go over to here. Right click to end, add another break line, put this one over here. Right click to end, add another break line. Ooh, this one has got to go a little bit lower because it's going on the S's. Right click to end, process the break lines. Now I can just go and select this guy, hit the delete key, select this guy, hit the delete key. Oh. I mean, isn't that easy? I mean, when I saw this, I mean, I showed how to digitize this by hand when we were in Phoenix, and it's not that hard. However, this as soon as I came home and had my time to percolate on it, I was like, oh, wow. Now, one thing to think about, adding break lines into this H and this A, that doesn't make sense because you're going to have to work too hard to get in this corner. So I still would select 2 nodes, right click, and choose break across. I'm still going to do that because that's just easier than trying to get that break line right into that corner. Okay, now one thing to pay attention to, this letter A here, do you see how there's a hole in my letter A? And if I choose 2 nodes and I right click, there is no break across. That's because there's a hole. You can't break across to the hole because this is actually 2 objects that are kind of embedded into one another. So you can't break across them. Okay? What you choose is connect to hole. And what that does when you do that is, do you see how it basically it now has a line going across here? This guy, let me get rid of this node and move this guy. He's in. Delete that node. Do you see I kind of reshaped this object so it no longer has a hole? Okay? So now, but when I select these 2, right click, break across. So if you have a letter B or P or anything that has holes in it, you're going to have to, when you right click, let me hold on. I did that wrong. Select, delete. Talking too much. Boom. And that should be a curve. Curve. You see where I'm going with this, right? When you have, where was I going with this? God, I lost my train of thought. When you have a hole in something, you want to be able to connect to the hole so that you actually have multiple objects. So that's what we're doing to create this stuff. Okay, I see so cool. I see what do you mean by process. I don't know what I was talking about. D says something you didn't know you could do is SA3. Pam says so cool. Bernadette says that's amazing. What do you mean by process? No sure. Not sure. What was I talking about? Maybe if you remember what I was talking about, that would work. I can think of my process on how I think through things. Process the stitches. That's just how StitchArtist processes the stitches. That's just what it does. Um, Helen says when it cuts the letters. Oh, the process thing. Yes. Okay. What do I mean by process? Well, I add the break lines, and then when I'm done adding the break lines, I click process. So when you have any of the letters that you're working on, so let me go and zoom out here. And let me just click on the letter F. So I'm going to add my break lines to that. So break line here. So there's one here. Right click to end. Add a break line. Draw it in here. Right click to end. Now I'm ready to process those break lines. So I want the software to take this object and take those break lines and make them break. Okay? So when I'm done with that one letter, adding my break lines into it, I click on the little process button here. And the button says cut at the break lines. So you add your break lines, and then you add them, and then you execute. Okay, so once you execute it, do you see these little lines here? They become part of the design. So that's where it actually cuts it, and it connects it, and it keeps them closed shapes. And it's now 3 separate pieces. So if I wanted to keep that, I could, but I don't want it. Just delete it and get rid of it. So, yes, everybody is helping me explain what I didn't understand, what I wasn't sure what I was saying. Hey, that's what's great about a hands-on class. This is what we learn. You guys explain everything that it is. So, yes, this is another new button to use. It is fabulous. This is an excellent example of when you want to use breaking it. But of course, when you just want to cut off pieces like this part of this F, selecting 2 nodes, right-clicking, and choosing break across is the easier way, simply because it's just a lot less work. And I'm all about less work. Now, since we're also in level 3, okay, and I showed in level 1 and 2 how you move your starts and stops so that it's going to stitch this part first, start and stop at the top, and then it's going to stitch the bar, start right here so there's no jump stitch, and then it's going to stop here. How would we do that H? Well, first of all, I want this to stitch first. So let me put this, there's my satin columns, and when I'm in level 2 or 3, as soon as I click this satin column, my very next step, I don't care what this looks like. My very next step is add inclinations. The reason is because if you're not really paying attention, I see it now. There's gobbledygook going on here. Do you see that corner? The satin, this is auto satin. In level 1, you have to reshape this to get this to do what you want. But in level 2, satin column, add inclination, left click drag. I put at least 2 because that's me. That's how I do things. Right click to stop adding them, and see how pretty that is? Now the next one I want to stitch, I have to think about this because this is going underneath. Okay, this was something that we talked about also. I don't remember which class we were in, but it might have been that class. But this is what they call bridging, because if I stitch this first, okay, and then I want these 2 to stitch on top of it with no jump stitches, how do you do that? I mean, realistically, you stitch start and stop here. Okay, so even if I move the stop over to this side and I stitch this one, how do I get back over to this side? That's kind of crazy. I mean, there is no way. Krista says that was day 3. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, let's see. The next one, I'm gonna stitch this first. It's gonna start here, and I'm gonna move the stop. Nope. I'm not going to stitch this first. I'm going to stitch first a little bridging guy over here so that I'm going to stitch this little bridgy guy. So I'm going to add another node. I could use the break across thing, but it's easier just for me I could use the add a break line, but it's just easier for me to have 2 nodes, select them, right click on them, and choose break across, which basically turns this into 3 objects. This one's going to be my very first one stitching. So satin column, add 2 inclinations because, did you see what it did? See, that's why you have to add inclinations, because it went back and forth this way. Yeah. Okay, satin column, add inclinations. I add 2 because it's a satin column. Boom. And it's really short. So it's going to start stitching this guy here, and I'm going to have it stop stitching up here, or maybe down here at the bottom. Let's do it at the bottom, okay? Stitching here. The next thing it's going to stitch is this column. So I'm going to zoom out. I make this satin column. Immediately I'm going to add my angles of inclination so that there's no confusion. And it is going to start stitching down here at the bottom, because that's where, you see this first one is stopping here? That's where stopping. So this one is going to start, and this one is going to stop way up here. Why? Well, first of all, let me put this one up here. This one's going to stitch first. Then it's going to stitch this guy. The next one is going to stitch is this one. I'm moving them in my order, and it's going to be a satin column, put angles of inclination. Ding, 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 ding. Right, whoopsie, right click. Move that so it's up and down. It's going to start here, and this one's going to stop over here. Because, do you see what just happened here? Krista says, bridging keeps crossing your mind when you're working on stuff. Well, it is a really cool technique, because it's the only way to get this bar to stitch before the rest. And this little bridgy guy, he's just stitching a little tiny satin that's just like one thread. Going to be maybe 2 threads here. And when this one is going to stop right here, and it's going to make a little tiny minuscule stitch from here to here that no one is going to notice. Honest. Okay? And then it's going to start here, stop here. This one's going to come in, and I'm going to go satin column, angles of inclination, ding, 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 right click, and I'm going to start it over here because I can see that that's where this one was stopping. And we'll just stop it here at the bottom just to keep it even. And of course I would straighten these out so that they're working on their things. But do you see, even if you have level 2, how you can create a nice evenly stitching one? Could you do this in level 1? It probably, I just never have, because that's so much work. If you really want to do this type of stuff, maybe do it once or twice and then decide that it's time to upgrade. Ask Santa for to upgrade, because it's really a lot of more hard work. Well, let's see, I want to get rid of these guys. Because I see how that's a wobbly line. And that's what happens when you have too many nodes. So if you delete it, move this guy here, change this angle up to here. Nice straight line. So much better for my OCDs checking in. D says, I've had some designs that had bridging but never thought about doing it in my designs. If you're trying to create a layered look without jump stitches, because that's what happened here. There's no jump stitches here. You see my angle of inclination? I see how it's going in wonky here at the top? If you're okay with that, that's fine. But if you want it to be right across the top, let's just move it in there, because that's where that guy should be. See how you can, that's what's great about level 2, is that you put those stitches exactly where you want them to be. So anyway, now if we have, these are our 4 pieces of our letter H. If you have level 3, and let me just change the color so that it's easier to find in our sew simulator. With level 1 or level 2, if you've gone this far to do this, this is how it's going to stitch. It's going to stitch our little bridgy guy. It's going to now jump down. It's going to stitch this guy here. It's going to come over here. And you see how that little tiny stitch, it just goes kapump, bumps right over there. No one's noticing that. Stitches this guy and then the rest of this one here. So each individual piece stitches out separately. Because you have, I've been showing level 3 functions, if you select all 4 of these people or objects here and you click on the branch button, it will probably increase the number of stitches, because it just has to. Yeah, 639 to 659. But now when it does the sew simulator, watch how it stitches. It's going to stitch all the underlay first, and then it's going to come through and stitch all the top stitching. So branching The whole job of branching is to connect your underlay so that you don't have gaps in your satin columns. That's its original reason why it was created. I mean, that was its original job. People use it for other things, but that is what's really cool about branching, is that it connects all of your underlay together so that it stitches first. Therefore, whatever you put on top isn't going to have gaps or holes or any other muckety-muck going on. So that's the level 3 function. Broke it all up into little AB pieces, branched it, done. Isn't that cool? Anyway, that's the long story short on how I went through. I would digitize, break up every single letter, stitch them all, not stitch them, set all of the angles, set my satin columns, set my stitching order so they kind of went in order. I would probably stitch the T and then the H, the top of the A, the top of the N, the top of, and go this way, stitch the L, and then come backwards this way. That's probably how I would do my how I would do my stitch out, and make sure that it just stitched out fine. And the first thing I'd probably stitch is the blessings on top of this, so that came down first. You know, I don't know. And that's why we do test sews, because if something's wonky, test sew tells you. Kathy says, about to convince me to get level 2 and 3. Well, if you're at level 1, oh yes. If you want to do anything with satins and setting those angles of inclination, it's so much easier in level 2. And of course, that breaking thing in level 3, wow, it's cool. So, and Rosie has this is another button. She had no idea what it was. I know, we have to play with buttons, and it's sometimes these things don't pop into our mind as to what they do or why they're good until we have an actual project that we could use them in. Because I know how the buttons all work, but until I have a reason to use them, I usually do things the hard way. And I'm like, oh, there should be an easier way. And like I said, I was playing around with this at home because we were talking about this in the hands-on class in Phoenix. I think it was either day 1 or, because I remember it was a customizing day that we started out with. And it branched out into further days. So anyway, guys, I think I've covered everything that I kind of wanted to today. Let's see. Can't even tell how valuable this class info has been. Wow, fabulous. And it's after hours, so we're having fun. So I'm glad. Melody says, yes, it was day 3. Perfect. Marie says that'd make a cute mug rug. Yeah, I saw it was done on a long pillow. So my first one that I was going to work on, it was going to be a smaller one because 5x7. But of course, I ran out of time because I'm leaving tomorrow and I haven't had time to stitch this yet. But hopefully, I would love to see you guys stitch these things and tag sew bubbles on it so that I can see your pictures, because this is just, it can be done in all levels. It just may be a little more work in level 1, but you know, I don't believe in people should overbuy, especially, and that's the beautiful thing about the Embrilliance software, is that it's budget friendly. I mean, once you know how to do it the hard way, then once you get the new button to do it the easy way, oh my gosh, it just becomes so much easier. Okay, Tammy says day 3 and it was so amazing. Loretta says love it, thank you. Great, Helen, great class, wonderful. Cheryl says love this technique. Dee says thanks so much. You're thinking kitchen towel, absolutely. Make sure those satins of Thankful are kind of skinny. Don't go too fat. So make those adjustments because you can. Just a personal experience. Wide satins on kitchen towels, unless they're the kitchen towels are just decorative that aren't going to get washed. So big satins just don't work right. So, and that Farmhouse is a skinny font, so make it skinnier. Even if you find the skinny version, I didn't find the skinny version to begin with, so I had to do more adjustments. Anyway, Lana says, great after hours, great. Nancy says, if you have 2 objects like a sunflower on a hat band, would you use the break so that they are not over layer. If you're digitizing them yourselves, absolutely. I mean, that is how you, if you don't want stitches someplace, this is how you break across, break up your objects into smaller ones. You don't put them there. Digitizing, it does not rely on remove hidden stitches. It's just not a good idea. You're not going to get as clean a result. And I'm not knocking remove hidden stitches. It is a fabulous, absolutely fantastic feature when you don't have control. It's for when you have two embroidery designs that you purchase from other places, or you're not digitizing them yourself. So if you have two stitch files and you overlap them, remove hidden stitches, which is an essentials function, will automatically remove the stitches underneath. But it will never be as elegantly, beautifully stitching as when you do it yourself in StitchArtist. If you were to make that, digitize the parts itself. And that's why I combined both using the easy lettering tool for the script, whether it says seasons or falcons or blessings or whatever on the top, and just digitizing the background. Because why? Hey, BX fonts are the bomb. So use something that looks really cute and go for it. Have some fun that way. So Pam says, so happy you can join me. Yay. Excellent. Excellent. Naxie says, great class. Darla says, awesome class. How to use SA3 buttons a lot better. Great. And I highly recommend you go and push buttons. All my folks from Phoenix, you promised me you were going to go home and push buttons. So I'm giving you a project to practice with, because I know how to use the software, but it won't sink in until you guys go home and push those buttons. So, Rosie says, watching this many times to take it all in. We covered quite a bit in this class. Let's see. D says, I'll make the letters skinnier. Yeah, it's the style of font. And this one was fatter, but it was the one I found. Oh, Simone says, ooh, now she knows a Christmas gift. And this type of stitching is going to be really relatively fast because it's not a whole bunch of work. Nancy says, thank you. Uh-oh. 43 years of marriage, maybe I should ask for this. Oh yeah, 43 years, congratulations. That's on both sides, because marriage is not just one-sided. Both sides take a lot of work. Congratulations, 43 years. That's absolutely fabulous. Okay, Teresa says, packed with knowledge, fabulous. Love the hearts, love this. Tammy, yay, I'm excited that you've been pushing buttons since class, so. And, Pam says she was interrupted, but you'll watch replay. Absolutely. Replays. There's over 4.5 years of replays on my Sew Bubbles Facebook page. Plus, I have the Vimeo channel, which has them edited with all the lot of the chattiness. And sometimes I have a brainstorm at the end, and I add it into the stuff on the Vimeo, so you have to watch it till the very end when we're there. All right, guys, it is 6 o'clock, so I am heading upstairs to finish packing, and if you're in Seattle, I will see you this weekend. Take care. Have fun, guys. Bye.